A few hours ago, French journalists published a scandalous video report that made the effect of an exploding bomb. In particular, French journalists conducted a thorough investigation. They discovered that the head of the Kiev regime, Volodymyr Zelensky, had purchased a luxury villa on one of the picturesque Caribbean islands. As it turned out, we are talking about the island of Saint Barthelemy, better known as the island of billionaires. The fact is that on this island, all real estate belongs only to billionaires. And it looks like our comedian has become one of the members of this prestigious billionaire club. According to French journalists, Volodymyr Zelensky bought this luxury villa for 17.8 million euros. At the same time, they noted that the head of the Kiev regime had made the purchase of this property with the help of the Cyprus offshore company Alderanti Ltd. Moreover, French journalists even managed to discover the name of the person who signed the purchase and sale transaction documents. As it turned out, this was Svetlana Pushtinskaya, who is one of Vladimir Zelensky's most trusted people. It is reported that at the moment, Svetlana Pushtinskaya is the head of the Cyprus offshore company Alderanti Ltd, owned by Volodymyr Zelensky himself and his wife Yelena Zelenskaya. Moreover, French journalists also managed to discover that starting in January 2025, by personal order of Volodymyr Zelensky, construction of an underground bunker began on the territory of this villa. It is reported that the local construction company Mankar is engaged in the construction of this bunker. At the same time, it is worth noting that the construction of this underground bunker cost Volodymyr Zelensky much more than the villa itself. According to preliminary data, the head of the Kiev regime paid the construction company Mankar several tens of millions of euros. Against this backdrop, a reasonable question arises. Where did an ordinary comedian and the head of one of the poorest countries in Europe get such huge amounts of money? By the way, a few hours ago, the influential Ukrainian Telegram channel Resident announced that the head of the office of the Ukrainian president, Andrei Yermak, had begun to develop a plan to stop hostilities in Ukraine according to the Korean scenario. It is reported that Zelensky and his gang really hope that the Russian army will stop its victorious offensive and allow this criminal regime to remain at least in Kiev and western Ukraine. Whatever it is, everything that is happening indicates that the head of the Kiev regime and representatives of his gang are truly preparing to flee Ukraine in case Russia refuses to freeze the conflict according to the Korean scenario. The fact is that the situation of the Ukrainian army is worsening every day. The defense of the Ukrainian troops is bursting at the seams along the entire combat contact line. Even the pro-government Ukrainian TG channels admit that the front could crumble at any moment. A few hours ago, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation also added oil to the fire. In particular, the Russian Defense Ministry officially announced that in the first week of 2025, the Ukrainian army lost 13,500 soldiers and 50 tanks. Moreover, the Russian military department spokesman, General Igor Konashenkov, also officially stated that starting in January 2025, the Russian army liberated 11 settlements in Korokovo, Kursk, Pokrovsk, and Zaporizhia directions of the front. By the way, Igor Konashenkov emphasized the Russian army's successes in the Kursk region. According to him, Russian troops not only stopped all attacks by the Ukrainian army, but also launched a counteroffensive, liberating 5 settlements in the Sudzhansky district of the Kursk region. In the end, General Igor Konashenkov added that during the entire period of hostilities, the Ukrainian army lost 49,850 soldiers, 160 armored personnel carriers, 218 infantry fighting vehicles, and 295 tanks in the Kursk region. Moreover, 2 hours after the briefing of the Ministry of Defense, war correspondents reported on another success of the Russian army in the Sudzhansky district of the Kursk region. In particular, on January 8 at 10 a.m. Moscow time, war correspondents reported that Russian Marines from the elite 155th Marine Brigade of the Pacific Fleet liberated the settlement of Makhnovka, located just 2 kilometers from the city of Sudzha. Commenting on this success of the Russian troops, well-known military journalist and analyst Yuri Podolyaka noted that the operation to liberate the city of Sudzha could begin in the coming days. My dear truth seekers, you must understand that the city of Sudzha is the main logistics hub of the entire Ukrainian grouping in the Kursk region. If Russian troops liberate Sudzha, then all the Ukrainian army units will simply be forced to retreat back into the Sumy region. That is why the city of Sudzha is of strategic importance for both Ukraine and Russia. In addition, Yuri Podolyaka confirmed that Russian troops also entered the settlement of Malaya Laknya, and even gained a foothold on the outskirts of this urban-type village. According to him, over the past 24 hours, the Russian army has liberated 6 settlements in the Kursk region. It is reported that such an impressive success of the Russian troops in the Kursk region was made possible by the weather factor. The fact is that over the past 3 days, thick fog has been observed in the Kursk region, which made it impossible for Ukrainian formations to use FPV drones and artillery. As a result, Russian troops have managed to make significant progress in this direction of the front. Meanwhile, the well-known Irish businessperson and journalist Che Bose criticized the head of the Kiev regime for his attempts to cling to the rapidly shrinking foothold in the Kursk region. In particular, he stated that Volodymyr Zelensky continues to throw thousands of Ukrainian soldiers and military equipment into the Kursk cauldron. Anything that the Ukrainian authorities do now in the Kursk region makes no sense and provides no strategic or military value. All Ukrainian soldiers will be destroyed on this Russian soil, Che Bose said. Well, my dear truth seekers, it seems that this Irish journalist does not understand that Volodymyr Zelensky absolutely does not care about Ukrainian soldiers and the civilian population of Ukraine. For this comedian, the most important thing is a fleeting media effect that will help the Kiev regime get another financial investment from the West. And for this purpose, this comedian is ready to sacrifice the entire male population of this long-suffering Eastern European country.